Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today. And today we're going to talk about what's new in version 11, and as promised, I can show you something already. This is a development version, obviously, and as you can see, it runs right in the web browser, and it kind of works, but there is still a long way before it's ready to be used in production. So we will talk about this later. Let's see what this is all about. A couple of important changes that many of you asked. Now we have an option to create groups and place objects like tables, custom views, charts, and dashboards in those groups. So we were thinking about people who has hundreds of tables in their projects, sometimes more than 1,000, and having all those tables on the same screen is not very pleasant. So we added an option to create groups. Okay, system tables, something. And here it is. That's a group. It doesn't have any tables now. So let's see what we can move here. Users table. What else? What other tables we have here that can be used with staff, language, payment, and we're going to move those tables as well here. It's just an idea of how groups work. So you can see this, these groups will appear the same way. Okay, admin users, something like this. Okay. So what is also important that every single group has their own diagram, right? So also something that was not really manageable. That's diagrams were huge, and now they can be pretty compact. That's a separate diagram for every group. So you can create as many groups as you want to and switch between them. And if you go to the next screen, the same thing, you can see all those groups here. SQL query. Okay, it's chart. If you switch to a regular table, same thing. You can see all the objects here, and it makes it easy to find the one that you're looking for. And of course, there is a search. It shows you, it filters those objects by object name. Can a table be more in one group? Yes. I don't think we have it right now. I don't think I can show you, but yes, we planned for this capability, and you will be able to add the same table, like a lookup table that is used in many groups. You can add it to diagram and to the group more than once. Yeah. So let me remind you that what is version 11 is all about. There are like a few things that, like a technical debt that we needed to take care of for a long time. So we switched from storing project data in XML files to a real database. So by default, it installs MySQL database server, but you can use any database you want. I'm pretty sure that MySQL, SQL Server, and Oracle will be supported. And I will show you the database structure in a minute, how it looks and what you can do with it. I mean, you don't really need to do anything with it, but if you want to tinker with it, it's just fine. And making backup copies of your projects of all your projects at once, by the way, is as easy as making a database backup. So what you can do, you can back up the whole database, and that will have all your projects in there. So these are features of a multi-user version. So if you are a single user version user, you will not see those. That means these are tables that where you made any changes to. So it's when you switch to another table, even if you don't change anything yet, it creates a copy of all table settings, and you can modify anything you want, but other users will not see it till it is actually saved in the database. But what they're going to see is that this table is in read-only mode for them. Let me show you an idea. I will open another browser window. It can be actually the same browser, but different tab, but I just want to show you like a different browser. So imagine someone connecting to the same project from a different machine, from a different part of the world, actually, which is amazing. A few people can work on the same project at the same time, connecting from pretty much anywhere, which is an amazing feature, if you ask me. So localhost. You're not actually going to type the URL in a browser. It will be an app that looks like a desktop app, but inside it's just a browser window, and it's going to be Chromium based. Okay, so we are connecting to our application server. Of course, it doesn't need to be localhost. It can be your, it can run on your server. And we connect, we open existing project at the same project, okay? And let's see what is happening here. So language table, I don't know if it make any changes here. Let me see. Oh, we didn't save it yet. We didn't save it yet, right? We need to save it first. Right, we added a new group. I click save here, and I switch to this browser window, and we wait a little bit. And you see it is updated automatically. And if you click language table, you can see that this table is in read-only mode. There is it says so in the bottom right corner of PHPRunner, and you can see the icon. That means you can see all the settings, you're just not able to modify it till user saves the project or discard changes or something like this. So it's like one person can work with a single object at a single moment all the time to prevent data conflicts and everything. This is why it's taken so long. We have to rewrite the whole UI, not from scratch, of course, but it's a rewrite. It used to be a desktop application written in C++, and then we switched to HTML for many dialogues already. Now we need to rewrite every single piece of UI, every single dialogue to be in HTML. And we already solved most of the technical issues here, and right now it's just a huge amount of work that needs to be converting UI to be HTML only. And you may notice that right now the UI doesn't look very impressive. It's a kind of like a little bit rough on the edges, and this is something that we're going to work on once we finish the functionality. The huge plus of this approach using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for the UI. The huge plus is that by modifying CSS, we can make changes to all parts of the application at the same time. And it's going to speed up working on UI a lot. And things like a dark theme will be possible, or you can even customize the way how your copy of PHPRunner looks, because it's just going to be CSS file sitting somewhere. So you will be able to customize it any way you want. Maybe you like, I don't know, certain font, system font, or maybe you like having your fonts slightly larger or slightly smaller. If you have a small screen and you need to fit tons of information on the screen in PHPRunner, you can do that as well. So it's just like possibilities are unlimited. So, and you can see I'm just changing the 50%. You can fit a lot of information here. It's not readable, but you can do that. The idea is, you see, I'm running it on at localhost right now, right? We do not connect directly to the database, which means you do not need to open your database to the access from the outside. We're going to run it through an application server that will run on port 4200 somewhere in your organization on a web server that provided by hosting company, for instance. And people will be able to connect to this project database from anywhere in the world, which is, again, one of the benefits. One of them, even if you do not think about having more than one developer working on a project, there are still benefits to this approach. Maybe you have a client, and instead of sending project files back and forth, you can just connect to your client's project database and make changes right there, and they will be able just to build the project and see what's happening. Instead of sending project files back and forth, some additional files, or maybe sending changes in the code, you can just connect to the project database, work with it, save it, and they will have the latest copy of their project instantly. So that's definitely opens up some new possibilities for low-code application development. There's also going to be a way to open the whole project exclusively. What's the point of it? If you need to make changes to some common parts of the project, for instance, you want to change, I don't know, security settings that will affect all the parts of the project, then you will be able to open the project exclusively. And once you made your changes, you save it, and those changes will propagate immediately to all other users, and they will be able to work with that project. Yeah, that's take a look at this. This is connection parameters to the local database that I use. And right now it's MySQL only, but there will be an option to connect to SQL Server as well, obviously. And it just connects to local database running on a designated port, but it can be any port, any database, anywhere in the world. The only thing that you would need to do, I guess, if you install PHPRunner server on a web server in your organization, and you need to provide access to someone else who is outside of your office, then you either need to create a VPN environment, or you just need to open port 4200 to the world so people can connect to yourwebserver.com semicolon 4200. So it's if you want to application server to be available from somewhere outside of your network, you will need to open that port. But you do not need to open access to your database directly, which is a huge safety issue. So you don't need to do that. You're safe. You just need to provide access to the application server. In version 11, it's going to be like almost instant because we never open the whole project. We never load the whole project into the memory. We only load what we need to load. So like we opened a few tables and we only load those tables into the memory. Let me show you. I'm not sure if you're going to see this. It's a debug panel. It just shows me some internal information, session ID, what kind of logs we currently have, and what else? Vault tables. So right now we only load 2 tables into the memory. It only works with those tables that we currently made any changes, so it doesn't load the whole project into the memory, and this is why it's going to be much faster. And again, database, the real database is, of course, always better than XML file. So if you having any issues saving your projects or loading projects or giving some sort of errors related to SQLite database where we're storing parts of the project, it's going away. It's just a regular database, and we have the whole it shows us that we currently have 2 tables open with 148 and 442. Let me show you real quick database structure, okay? And I'll be back to questions. Database structure for this. So if you go to back here, so we use local database server and port is 14300. I have already created a connection. So let me just show you what kind of tables we have here. And people already ask like if they're going to be able to make changes to the database directly. If they need to make multiple changes to the project at the same time, then yes, it's not that we really, okay, yeah, that's a screen, right? So PHPRunner database. And there are projects, there are tables here like projects. Okay, let me show you data. We only have one project here, and data is stored in JSON format, right? And projects, then tables. Tables, that's a list of the tables in the project. And you can see tables are 148 and 442. We can see that they are open in session 380. And if you take a look here, these are our tables that are open right now, and session ID is 380. So that's the same information. It's just something that is helpful, but it's probably not going to be here once we finish. I just wanted to show you that we do not load the whole project right here. So what other tables are here? Pages, and then there are fields right here. All fields in all tables are here, and then we have view formats, view as formats, again in JSON, that describes settings of every field, and the same thing is edit formats. I believe events are also something that is separate. We don't have any events in any of project yet. There's a bunch of tables that have REV, revisions underscore prefix. here. These are where we save temporary data when we make changes to the project, but do not save it, do not commit it to the main storage. This is where it is stored, like a temporary storage. Anyway, that's the idea, and once you have this version installed on your machine, you can play with it, you can experiment, and maybe you can figure out the way how you can change the properties of all fields at the same time. I'm pretty sure people will want to do that, even if it's something that kind of under the hood, but why not? Okay. So when we expect version 11 to be available? So we're working very hard to make a stable version before end of the year. Stable means this is something that you can actually use in production. So the version that you can try, like a beta version, will be available definitely before that, hopefully end of November or beginning of December. Again, if there is a property somewhere in your database, property in of the project, then you will be able to modify it in the database. If this is something that applies to PHPRunner functionality, like implemented in the code, then it needs to be changed in the code. So it depends. If there is something that is has a UI control that allows you to set properties of the field, then you will be able to change that in the database, in the project database. And if this is something that only controlled by the code, then you have to modify the code. Okay, migration. Yes, it will be seamless. So even that project structure is different now. Instead of XML and SQLite, we're going to use database. This is something that you just open your old project as .phpr file and you just save it and save it in your database. So yes, that's going to be seamless. You would not do, you won't need to do anything at all on your part. It's just going to work. Editor screen. Let's take a look at the editor screen and see what is different there. Again, I don't really know if something like already implemented. It's okay. Let's take a look at the page designer. Okay, let me hide the debug panel so we save up a little bit of the space here. So mostly it is going to look the same. Style editor screen is also going to look about the same and basically do the same job. So there are definitely going to be some changes, but because yeah, we accumulated a huge to-do list for minor changes and we implemented some of them. But I don't think page designer or style editor will change like revolutionary. It's mostly going to be the same. So new version is going to be mostly about the speed, about the safety of your data, about multiple users working on the same project at the same time. These are the most important features. And once we switch to the new platform, then we can start adding features that make sense. And it will definitely going to be easier to implement once we completely switch to all HTML-based PHPRunner and ASP.NET. Copy pages between projects. Again, all pages, everything that is project related is going to be stored in the database, right? So all pages or just a long JSON string in the database. So you can just go to the database and copy and paste it, for instance, from one project to another. And of course, you can write a SQL query that will do that. That is like a more manageable way, where you can specify like source project, target project, page name, table name. So yeah, it's definitely possible. What browser? So it's going to be a desktop application. In fact, that wraps it's a wrapper around Chromium browser, as in Chrome. So I don't think you will need to actually run it in a browser, but it's just going to work. So it's just going to look the same way. Let me show you. Okay, let me save it. Let me close it. So this is something that like you start up PHPRunner or OSPRunner.net, and if it's a single developer version, you will go just straight to the screen where you can create a new project, open existing one. And if this is a multi-dev version, then you will be presented with this login screen, and administrator will be able to create users, etc. But as a regular developer, you can just click login and you present with this screen. You can create a new project, you can open existing project, and if there are any sessions in the database, you can jump into that session. If it's something that probably won't need to do often, only if something happens, like your electricity was turned off and you did not save the project, it's still being saved, it's just not in the main branch, sort of. It's like a session, and then you can jump into that session if you want to. But it's the same screen. You open existing project that shows you all projects in the database, and open shared, it's by default, open exclusively when you need to make changes to security or some common properties. You open the project and it looks exactly the same as your existing PHPRunner. So we are hoping there will be like nothing to actually learn, except if you want to tinker with the project database, then you can do that. But if you just want to build your application the same way you did before, it's going to be mostly the same. So as you can see. Okay. If you have any additional questions about version 11, do not hesitate to ask via email. And if I have an updated version, I will show it to you if there are like any new features. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining, and have a great weekend. I will have this recording available in our Dev Club members area shortly. All right, guys. Bye-bye. Take care.